Welcome to Let's Play It by Ear podcast featuring me, your host, Joanna, and co-host, Carrie. Say hello, Carrie.
Hello.
Wonderful. So today we will be talking about the art of being Asian, specifically in the classical music world. So we're going to be talking about, how much practice is enough practice and, for an Asian, and also just how our Asian backgrounds have played a huge role in affecting our careers and our education, just talking about the nitty gritty of just the very obvious fact that we are Asian. you know, we have decided to just talk about it this time. So, Carrie, how much practice is actually enough practice? I guess, did you feel like you had to practice all the time?
I think I grew up very lucky in that sense. The only person really pushing
Mm-hmm.
me to practice was myself.
Okay.
My parents encouraged me definitely to learn music, starting with piano when I was
Okay.
5.
Mm-hmm.
But it was never like you have to practice X number of hours each day, every
Right.
single day, and you have to get this much done.
Right.
No, it was expected that you practice, of course.
Yeah.
Um, but like put the time in, practice well, do your best.
Mm-hmm.
You did it? Okay, good. Good.
I love it.
Oh, you can go play or do homework.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
It was never like a lot of pressure to practice
Mm-hmm.
when
Mm-hmm.
when I was a kid.
Got it.
In university, that's a different. We'll get to that part later.
Okay. Okay.
How about you?
Well, um, so my background is that my mom learned the piano when she was young.
Mm,
Um, but what's really interesting is I don't recall her ever telling me that my grandparents ever made her practice.
mm,
Um, she did practice, obviously,
mm-hmm.
um, but I don't recall her ever telling me that she was like forced to practice this many hours or
Okay.
anything like that. Not at all. In fact, it sounded like my mom was actually fairly independent when it came to learning an instrument. So when it came to my brother and I, um, she uh, she wanted to be pretty hands off because she had overheard, well, not really overheard, just straight up people from church told her that they felt that they had ruined their relationships with their children by teaching them piano.
Oh.
And by like becoming their teacher and being really overbearing, be like, you have to
Mm,
practice. And then even when they're practicing and getting stuff wrong, they're like, you did that wrong, like they're just
right.
yelling it from the kitchen, because they're
Yeah.
listening to them practice. So, like, it caused these kids to be very resentful of their
Mm,
parents. And my mom was terrified of that. Like, that was the last thing she wanted, was for us to be resentful of her. Um, so even though we heard her play piano all the time at home, at least by the time it got to me, she was very hands off. She was just like, I'm getting you a teacher, and you do what the teacher says, and I am not actually going to critique your practicing at home.
okay.
Yeah. I will say, though, due to my nature, it was hard for me to sit down and practice. Um, so my mom would help me by getting me to have a little schedule, a little routine. So I knew that at this time on a day that I would have to go to the piano and
Mm,
practice. When it came to the flute, I was obsessed with the flute in the beginning.
mm-hmm.
So I would on my own practice for like an hour or 2 hours or something like that, just
Nice.
on my own because I loved it. However, I got burnt out when I was older. And on top of that, in high school, I was taking IB, International
Mm-hmm.
Baccalaureate, which took over my whole life. So I rarely had any time to practice. And my parents did not scold me for it. They would every now and then be like, Joe, are you okay? We noticed you haven't been practicing a lot. Are you actually prepared for your lessons? You know?
Oh,
And
that's
they
a
would
good way.
be, yeah, like they would be genuinely
Hmm.
concerned for me. But then it just like, I just had no time. So I was, maximum, I was practicing 15 minutes a day, maximum,
Hmm.
absolute maximum. And there are many days that I skipped. So, um, so we have a running joke that, I, they actually wrote this as like a little graduation little blurb, because like every graduating student would have a blurb that could be read out loud as you're walking across the stage
Oh,
by your family.
okay.
And the blurb that my family submitted was, Joanna is a very passionate, I forget exactly the verbiage, but it was essentially, Joanna is a very passionate flutist who spends her time writing physics labs, which is very, very true because I was very bad at physics. So I used my lab reports, and I would like, you know, absolutely perfect the heck out of my lab reports in order to drag my grade up.
Right.
So I spent a lot of time on those physics labs. A little bit too much time though, because I ended up winning the physics lab award
Oh.
at school. Yeah,
Oh.
but that was our running joke, was that Joanna is a very passionate flute player who spends her time writing physics labs. Um, so they were pretty understanding of why I ended up not practicing as much.
Mm.
They're very strange in that way. They're very strange Asian parents. I mean, like, not typical by any
Yeah.
means.
Well, I guess we do have to say, even though we are both Asian, and it
Yeah,
sounds like both of our parents are like not what you would think as the stereotypical type of
exactly.
Asian parent.
Yeah.
We do have to recognize that there are still those, yes, you get
Hmm.
both ends of the spectrum, of course,
Oh yeah.
but you get all sorts of Asian, all styles of Asian parenting. There
Hmm.
is no
Hmm.
one mold
No,
that
there
is
isn't.
like the definitive Asian parenting or
No.
Chinese parenting for that matter.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but we're just more mentioning like how our background really has informed who we are as
Hmm.
adults and musicians right now.
Hmm. I mean, I will say that even without even without my parents pushing us like crazy,
Hmm.
it's not like I didn't feel like I really needed to perform at a high caliber. Why? It's because my dad has multiple degrees. He has two doctorates. Okay. My mom, um, very unusual in her time, but she has an English language minor and a Chinese literature major. Okay. Like, she crazy. Okay. Um, and my brother is an insane academic, absolutely insane. He skipped a year in university. You know that?
I don't think I know that.
Yeah, he skipped a year. He did 4 years in three.
Wow.
Yeah. And he went straight into a master's after that. He's now a professor, you know? So, like, the pressure that I got was more so that I didn't want to be the shame of the family.
That is pressure, but just indirect.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, my family is so sweet about it too, though, right? Like, they were the ones who did an intervention with me where they were like, Joanne, Joe, we noticed that you're like showing us all these videos on YouTube of these like funny Asian people making funny videos, and you like to talk, so why don't you make videos? Right? Like, they're really sweet about it. They really encouraged me to be me. They noticed what I liked and encouraged me to go in that direction. My brother even had a sit down coffee with me where he was like, Joe, I can tell that you're trying to be like me. You need to stop that. Like,
Mm.
you are you, and you have your own strengths
Mm-hmm.
that I don't have, like my brother doesn't have. And he's like, and you need to play up those strengths. Like, you don't need to be like me, you know? And so, like, my family did everything in their power to try and make me not feel like I had pressure.
Right.
But there's still pressure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when your family is like that and kind of people from the outside, they see your mom and dad
Yeah.
and your brother, they're
A
that.
lot of the pressure was from outside. You're completely correct about that.
Yeah. Well, I do think this does um relate to the Asian side in that
Mm-hmm.
we talk a lot about faith.
Yep.
So, like you said, growing up, I didn't get a lot of direct pressure from my parents as well, too. I think I was lucky in that way. That, oh,
Mm-hmm.
you need to succeed, you need to be the best at everything, you need to be the top in your class,
Yeah.
you need to do lots and lots of activities and excel in every single one of them.
Yep.
No.
Yeah.
Um, we were allowed to explore a range of activities,
Mm-hmm.
but it was left up to us ultimately what we were truly passionate in. So we did
Mm-hmm.
horseback riding, we did drawing, tennis, swimming,
Mm-hmm.
badminton, ping pong,
Yeah.
music. My brother
Yeah.
did a grand total of 3 months of piano and like, nope.
I'm
I mean,
done.
not for him. He didn't like it. Fair enough. He
Yeah.
tried. You can't
Exactly.
say he didn't try.
Yeah.
Um, and ultimately, I chose music. I
Yep.
did tennis as well too, competitively as a kid. My brother and I, we both played in leagues. We competed, like we went
Wow.
all around town and competed with other youths.
Wow.
So I did that, and my brother decided to pursue that further. He
Mm-hmm.
was varsity team captain in university.
Wow.
Um,
Wow.
I chose music.
Yeah.
So yeah, our parents were like, okay, you can choose, but if
Mm-hmm.
you're choosing that, you have to put in the effort. Then you
Fair.
have to be accountable.
Mm-hmm.
Like we said in the first episode, if you hadn't watched it, go take a look.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be responsible.
Mm-hmm.
So you're choosing to pursue this,
Mm-hmm.
then let's see you put in some effort and give it your best.
Yep. Yep.
So that was where the pressure came from. But of course,
Mm-hmm.
uncles and aunts from outside, family, friends, they say, oh, okay, so you're doing this or you're doing this. Oh, can you perform this? Can you do that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my kid's doing this. And like as children, of course, you hear
Yeah.
aunts and uncles say all of that, and then even though your parents don't actively say, oh, you see, this kid is doing this, this other uncle's child or aunt's doing this. How come you can't be like that? That was never the case. But again, you hear these things,
Yep.
and then you kind of reflect and say, oh, should
Mm-hmm.
I be doing that?
Mm-hmm.
Should I be achieving that? It's like, and then you start questioning yourself.
Yeah. I totally agree because I'm a pastor's daughter, so a lot of the comparison happened at church.
Oh,
A lot of people compared me against my brother.
oh,
Yeah, because he was seen as sort of like shining star, like, really like very, very smart. Um, and everyone just saw him as like the like golden pastor's son.
mm-hmm.
And so everyone just straight up expected me to be the same.
How
But
did how did you feel?
I mean, I'm rebellious by nature. But at the same time, I don't like to start crap or fights for no good reason. You know what I mean? So I went with it for a while. Like, I went with it for a while until um I don't know if I should say this, but I'll make it vague. Um there was a falling out at a church that my dad was a pastor at, and I straight up because, you know, there's like an English congregation that is usually geared towards the young people. And then there's a Chinese congregation that is geared towards the adults, because all the adults spoke Chinese, right?
Right.
So I didn't even say anything, and I just dropped out of the English congregation, and in support of my dad, because there was a big falling out. In support of my dad, I sat in the front row in the Chinese congregation, sticking out like a sore thumb. Like, I was that kind of rebellious where I didn't care. Like, when it came down to it, when it came to, I guess, loyalty to family, I didn't care what anyone thought. And so I sort of could sense that from that point on, I could sort of sense that people realized that I was not like my brother. And also at that time was when I started to really get into music. And I didn't really tell a lot of people what I was doing with music. But sometimes I would, you know, perform on the flute at church and some stuff like that. And you could definitely tell that people thought that what I was going to do was really impractical. You get that a lot.
Yep.
Not that my parents ever told me that it was impractical, but everyone else, all the uncles and aunties are like kind of, you know, you kind of know that they're talking, you know?
You see that look, kind of.
Yeah, it's a very specific look where they're like, oh, honey, you know, right? Like, so I got that look a lot. And, but then I started getting into online content, which was like, I noticed that when I started to get into online content, that was when not like, it actually had, like, you would think that they would come out of the woodworks and start being like, what are you doing? You know, that's so impractical. It was more that they had so little idea of what I was doing that they just were like, I don't know what to do with you. So I actually had one, like, there was one auntie. We call everyone uncle and auntie, okay? Just so you guys know, in Chinese culture, everyone is uncle and auntie. Yeah. So regardless of whether or not they're actually related to you, okay? So there was this one auntie at church where I was 16, and I very clearly remember that she was trying to kind of like weirdly sort of like win me over to be like, I don't know, to be like almost like a teacher's pet, kind of, you know?
Okay.
It was weird, man. It was weird. Okay. It was very, very weird. And, but I wasn't giving in because I didn't trust her. So there's something about her just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And I was like, I don't trust this lady. So like, I just wouldn't tell her things. Like, she would ask me like personal things. I just wouldn't tell her, you know? So then there was like one time where, you know, I was doing homework at her house and I just went like that, you know? And she's like, oh my gosh, like sighing so loudly, you know, like, you know, in Cantonese, like, tan ma yeah, you know, like, right?
Hi, Lily.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, so like, you know, like, what are you sighing about? You know, like what could be so, you know, like, what could be going on in your life that you're sighing about it? You know, it had that kind of attitude. And usually a person like, you know, age 16 or so would, you know, start defending themselves or whatever, right? But I just straight up didn't trust her. So I just didn't say anything.
Oh, silent treatment.
Yeah. I let it be silently awkward, and that was her problem, not mine. Like, I've always been like this. Like, even from when I was a teenager, I just don't care what people think.
I have to say that's something I really admire about you.
Thank you.
As your friend, that's something I truly, truly admire, when someone just can't be bothered about what other people think about them.
Couldn't be bothered. Just couldn't be bothered. I mean, it's worse now because my husband really doesn't care what people think about him. So, like, even more so than me. So I've definitely gotten even, I don't know which way you guys would look at it, worse or better, at
Both.
you know, like not caring what people think. So, you know, but you definitely feel that pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Like even if you're like me and you don't care, you still feel it.
That's very interesting that because my brother also got more of the attention, but I mean,
Mm-hmm.
with him being in tennis, it was more easily seen by the
Oh, you're
uncles and
right.
aunts. Like you can watch a match. Whereas for music, again, it's like they know what music is, of course, but
Mm-hmm.
the classical music,
You're right.
they're like, oh, okay, are
I
you
heard
sure?
that so many times. Exactly the same. Oh, okay.
Like, are you sure? Uh, what they would say in Cantonese, one do tin ga. Like, you can make a living off of this.
Yeah.
You can survive.
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, I wasn't yet 100% committed to it. When I was,
Mm-hmm.
I think when I first started really liking classical music was when I was 15
Mm-hmm.
years old. Kind of
Mm-hmm.
started a little bit later for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I was still exploring it. I didn't really know what to do.
Yeah.
I didn't. I kind of knew that I wanted to go into music.
Right.
Um, but yeah, like all the uncles and aunts, like, oh wow, your brother, blah 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 blah. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm happy for my brother, but I have more of a shy personality, so I would keep that inside, and I got very used to being that invisible sister.
I felt like it was easier to just go invisible and just enjoy my own classical music extracurricular activities on my own and not tell them about it.
Yes, but I have a rebellious side too that is not readily seen, I think. My parents
Mm.
describe me as quietly very competitive. You don't
Oh,
see me, I will make you see me. I'm not going to scream and shout,
right.
but over time, I'm going to
Yeah.
prove it to you. I think that can be self-destructive as well too though.
It can be. Yeah, it can be. Yeah. Yeah.
There were times when it was hard for me, but
Mm-hmm.
I think as I got a little bit older,
Mm-hmm.
um, I would feel like, okay, yeah, you don't really see me. I have
Mm-hmm.
an opinion. I'm going to share it. So I ended
Oh,
up being known as the daughter with that mouth.
really?
Yeah. My parents' friends thought I was too outspoken. I would share too many of my opinions and be too forthright with it
They thought you were mouthy.
on everything and anything.
Wow. I took my rebellion in basically the polar opposite direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, my rebellion was silent treatment.
I could only stay silent for so long.
Oh,
When I was a kid, when I was upset, yeah, I wouldn't
yeah.
speak.
Oh,
But as I grew, I found
yeah.
I don't really want to keep it in.
Fair. That's fair.
I'm gonna tell you.
I was the opposite because when I was a kid, like, I was the type of kid who could induce my own tears. Like, I could make myself cry, like, on command to throw a tantrum. Like, I could throw a tantrum whenever I wanted, wherever, you know? Like, but then it's as I got older, I did the exact opposite of you. I
Mm.
went actually more and more into the silent treatment because I was just like, why bother? They're not going to understand. It's a waste of my breath. That's
Oh,
the way I saw it. I literally saw it like talking to them about what I want to do as a
hmm,
waste of breath.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought I would try and show them.
I love it. I love seeing this side of you. I love that. Like, that's fantastic, in my opinion.
In my opinion, I thought so too. It wasn't appreciated.
You know, I think it's one of those things where now that I look back, I guess now that we're in our 30s,
Mm.
now that I look back, I look at those people and I'm like, it's only because they know so little about the classical music world. That's why they're so wary of it.
Hmm.
They don't know anything about it.
It's a world very far away in a
Yeah.
way. They know it
Yeah.
exists.
Yeah. They know it exists, but they don't know what it's like,
Yeah.
you know?
I remember I had two childhood friends. We met up with them and their parents for dinner when I was, I think, in the UK doing my master's.
Mm-hmm.
I went home for the summer. We met up with them for dinner, and they're saying, "Wow, Carrie, you're the first friend we've ever had
Mm-hmm.
that is in music, or like this
Wow.
much into music,
Like became a professional.
pretty much."
Wow.
So I kind of like, "Oh, okay." Well, I mean, when you're surrounded
Yeah.
when you're
Yeah.
in that world, you don't feel that way.
Yeah, because you're just like everyone else,
Yeah.
you know? Like this does remind me, my brother told me that he came for a Wednesday noon hour concert
Oh,
and at UBC cuz he was his classes were in the next door building
the
to
Buchanan.
ours. It wasn't the Buchanan, it was the other one, the like history one.
Oh, okay.
History is it? No, forget what it well, I forget what it was, but directly across from the you know where the tuning fork is
Hmm.
at UBC,
Hmm.
so it is that building over there,
Oh,
like
okay, okay.
beyond, yeah.
Right, right.
And then yeah, so he was at that building, so we would always carpool to school together, and then
Hmm.
we would park in that parking garage, right, in
Yeah.
the corner, and then he would go to that building and then I would go to the music
Oh, so
building.
nice.
Yeah, we did that every morning. Like we bonded so much over that.
Mm.
um but yeah, it was um like he told me that going to Wednesday noon hour, he was like it felt like going straight into Hogwarts. Like he felt like such an alien. He felt
Oh,
like such a muggle basically,
okay.
like in in the school, because he like was listening to people's conversations and they were arguing about whether or not their assignment was in 2-4 or 4-4, you know.
Hmm. Hmm.
And and he's like, what the heck, what the heck is going on? um and he was just like, man, all of you guys are like the same. Like you guys are all the same kind of weird, but it's normal. Like
Hmm.
I'm the weird one. Like he was telling me that he felt like the different one,
Right.
you know, in when he was sitting in that Wednesday noon hour
Hmm.
concert. And I think that's exactly what you're saying, though, is that when we're in this world together, we're all the same.
Yeah.
So it feels normal. Then when you go back to your like home life, you know,
Hmm.
that's when you realize you're like the only musician there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Actually, that's an interesting point. Do you find, like, growing up as an Asian, you were taught to not stick out? Or maybe not directly taught, like
Yeah.
the culture,
The
your
culture.
ethnic culture would kind of teach
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
not draw attention to yourself.
Yes. Yes. And I did the exact opposite.
Okay. I felt the same. I feel the same way. I still
Yeah.
feel the same way.
Yeah.
I did that when I was a kid.
Oh. Yeah.
Up until the point I realized I want to do music.
Yeah.
Oh, that's gonna make you stand out. No problem. I
Yeah.
remember in second year, I think one of the English literary professors said to one of our mutual friends,
Yeah.
um, he said, "Oh, okay. So you're both musicians. You're gonna both play an orchestra. Do you enjoy being famous?" We both said no. So in orchestra, you're anonymous but famous. And we're like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh yeah,
It's true
oh,
because you're identified by your chair,
yeah."
you know? Yeah.
But like you're still kind of more
Mm-hmm.
known in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that kind of goes against the grain of what Asians tend to do. Again,
Mm-hmm.
not across the board, But like growing up, you always hear uncles and aunts say, "Oh, are you going to become a doctor, lawyer, engineer?"
Mm-hmm.
Um, all those
Mm-hmm.
you can say, I guess, stereotypical
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
professions. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, no, 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 I want to become a musician. Are you okay?
You know what? I just realized why I give people the silent treatment about that. It's because I watched my brother get taken out for coffees by these uncles and aunties at church. And at these coffee sessions, they would try to persuade him to not become an academic. Like, it was much more outright with my brother, and he's older than me. So I wanted to avoid having those conversations with them. So I gave them the silent treatment.
They felt like it was within their right
Yes.
to tell your
They
brother.
yes, they did.
Did your parents know?
Yes. They didn't like it
Okay.
because they would go under the guise of like, oh, I just want to like, get to know uh, like, that kind of church family type of
Mm-hmm.
vibe, They're like, oh, a lot of people in this type of Chinese church community, they really like the mentor mentee relationship.
Oh, okay, I see.
The mentor mentee relationship is very, very big in
Mm.
the Chinese Christian community. And at least when I was a part of it. Who knows? Maybe things have changed now. But at that time, a lot of people really like to see themselves as mentors at church. And so they would see this young guy, my brother, and be like, I'm going to mentor this kid to be better than what he thinks he should be, you know? And then take him out for coffee and basically just try and convince him that he should not be an academic. Like there were literal multiple sessions of like this, of various uncles and aunties being like, you should really think about being a lawyer. You're so smart. You really should be a lawyer.
Yeah, I can really see myself, like, if they had done that to me, I would go like, blah, 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 blah.
I mean, that's what my brother did.
Okay. How did they take it?
And not well.
Well, that's
They
their
didn't take
fault.
it well. Yeah, of course they didn't take it well. Um, but yeah, I, this is really digging up some repressed memories, but that is exactly why I gave them the silent treatment.
Mm.
I just straight up didn't tell them what I was doing so that I could get away with doing it without being criticized.
Well, you had good reason.
No, no. It's being that Slytherin, you know?
Yeah. I'm the older one though, so
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
have
You're the
that.
older one. Yeah, like I feel like I could get away with some things because I was the younger one. Because I
Yeah.
could see what my brother was doing, and I was like, it's a waste of breath talking to them. Might as well not say anything,
Fair.
right?
You found your way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for helping me with that. Was very therapeutic for me. I don't
Okay,
know
I'm
about
glad.
you.
I'm glad.
I've never spoken about that publicly before.
Well, thank you for sharing.
Thank you for listening.
Anytime.
Well, I guess this is a good place to stop, Rat.
Yeah.
Um, take it away. I think it's your turn to do the
Okay.
outro.
Well, thank you so much for joining us for the second episode in this Opus 4, The Art of Being Asian.
Yes.
We hope you learned something from our stories, or if not, hope you enjoyed our stories. And if you are Asian as well, and you share similar experiences, or even if you're not Asian, but you know friends and family who've experienced something like that, or you yourself have experienced something similar, please feel free to share it with us.
Mm-hmm.
We can be found on these following platforms. We are on Facebook, Let's Play It by Ear
Mm-hmm.
podcast. And
Mm-hmm.
we're on Instagram and Twitter. We are also on anchor.fm. You
Mm-hmm.
can listen to the podcast there. And you can also contact us at our email address. It's let's play let's play yeah let's play it by ear dot podcast at gmail.com.
Perfect.
Let me try that once more. Let's play it by ear dot podcast at gmail.com. That's our email address.
Yes.
And you can also go to our website and check out everything that we have there, including the podcasts, descriptions, bit about ourselves as well too.
Mm-hmm.
And if you like what you're hearing here, watching here, you can like and subscribe. Click the bell button so you will get notified. My gosh, I cannot speak. I think it is definitely time to end. So thank you very much. We will see you in the next episode.